Цифровизация патентной системы России направлена на открытость и создание комфортных условий для заявителей. В инфраструктуре Роспатента активно используются решения, обеспечивающие бесшовную интеграцию. Именно они позволили создать единую технологическую платформу, на которой базируются все разрабатываемые системы. Основная система ведомства – это открытая цифровая платформа поиска патентной информации. Она позволит изобретателям и инвесторам эффективнее определять тренды научно-технологического развития, будет способствовать трансферу технологий и коммерциализации разработок на российском и зарубежном рынках. Но главное – предоставить людям, обладающим экспертными знаниями и разными потребностями, площадку для общения, на базе которой будет формироваться активное профессиональное сообщество. Любой пользователь, независимо от уровня подготовки и знания патентной специфики, даже не владея иностранными языками, может благодаря ей искать и анализировать данные. Расширенные возможности поиска и огромные массивы патентной информации ставят ее в один ряд с ведущими мировыми платными системами. При этом платформа Роспатента будет бесплатна и доступна для всех. На платформе представлен ряд специализированных поисков, и несмотря на большие объемы данных и сложность поисковых запросов, информация будет обрабатываться с очень высокой скоростью. Чтобы сделать ее доступнее и интегрировать в единое пространство научно-технической информации, коммуникация здесь осуществляется не только через интерфейс пользователя, но и через интерфейсы межмашинного взаимодействия. Единая платформа позволяет одинаково удобно работать как физическим, так и юридическим лицам и предоставлять им весь спектр цифровых услуг Роспатента. Для средств индивидуализации будет создана система интеллектуальной экспертизы. Примененный в ней искусственный интеллект поможет даже неподготовленным пользователям быстро найти по изображению товарный знак или промышленный образец и подобрать наиболее похожие документы, что позволит проще и быстрее зарегистрировать объект интеллектуальной собственности, а при необходимости и скорректировать его. Создаваемая единая платформа распоряжения правами на зарегистрированный объект интеллектуальной собственности будет использовать блокчейн-технологию. Так, контрагенты смогут распоряжаться правами на зарегистрированные в Роспатенте объекты интеллектуальной собственности, видеть актуальные предложения о продаже или приобретении прав на объекты, а также оформлять сделки в режиме реального времени. Роспатент, как цифровое и высокотехнологичное ведомство, уделяет большое внимание использованию искусственного интеллекта, но не стремится заменить им человека. Основная цель – избавить специалиста от рутинной работы. Сегодня Роспатент возглавляет и активно участвует в рабочих группах комитета ВОИС по стандартам представления патентной информации и использованию технологий распределенных реестров в сфере интеллектуальной собственности. Роспатент является лидером среди ведущих патентных ведомств мира по внедрению технологий, использующих трехмерные объекты. С 2021 года ведомство принимает заявки, содержащие 3D-модели. Таких широких возможностей в этой области, как у российских заявителей и экспертов, нет нигде в мире, и Роспатент продолжает их совершенствовать. Роспатент продолжит переводить услуги в цифровой формат и укреплять свои позиции в качестве одного из ведущих национальных патентных ведомств в мире. Мы создаем лучшую среду, исходя из потребностей заявителей, и делаем знания доступнее. Будущее за странами, у которых в приоритете знания и свободный обмен открытыми данными. Только на такой почве могут возникать новые идеи, решения и технологии. Все больше ценятся не материальные активы, а интеллектуальная собственность, права на которую необходимо защищать. Мы призываем ученых, изобретателей и предпринимателей идти в ногу со временем, активно использовать цифровые сервисы Роспатента для всесторонней охраны своих разработок.
Первый патентный закон России принят в 1812 году. С 2008 года действует часть 4 Гражданского кодекса Российской Федерации, единый законодательный акт, регулирующий правоотношения в данной сфере. С 2020 года Роспатент регистрирует географические указания и выдает на них свидетельства. За период с 1901 по 2021 года Нобелевскую премию получили ученые, писатели, политические и общественные деятели, всего 22 человека, имевшие на дату вручения премии подданство Российской империи, гражданство СССР и Российской Федерации. В рамках национальной программы «Цифровая экономика Российской Федерации» Роспатент строит новую клиентоцентричную модель взаимодействия граждан и бизнеса с ведомством в цифровом поле, где переход от сервиса к сервису для пользователя становится незаметным. Таким образом, в цифру был переведен весь перечень услуг Роспатента. В течение 2022 года Роспатентом будут созданы 15 абсолютно новых цифровых систем. Сейчас они находятся в опытной эксплуатации. Все наши цифровые продукты основаны на работу с большими данными, распределенными реестрами и другими. Они абсолютно бесплатны и открыты для всех групп клиентов. Результат – повышение качества проведения экспертизы, доступ к информации и удобным цифровым инструментам в сфере ЕС для российских граждан, изобретателей и бизнеса. По данным Роспатента за 2021 год средняя длительность рассмотрения заявок на товарные знаки 3,82 месяца, на изобретение 3,62 месяца, на полезную модель 1,31 месяца, на промышленный образец 4,11 месяца, на программы для ЭВМ и базы данных 31 месяца, по Teams 33 месяца. Это одни из лучших показателей в мире. Роспатент взаимодействует с международными и региональными организациями в сфере интеллектуальной собственности, является членом 23 из 25 международных договоров и соглашений, администрируемых в ОИС. В течение 4 установленных сроков выполняет функции международного поискового органа и органа международной предварительной экспертизы в рамках договора PCT. Российская Федерация присоединилась к Женевскому акту Лиссабонского соглашения о наименованиях мест происхождения товаров и географических указаниях.
Dear colleagues, we're happy to welcome you to our conference. Intellectual property market today and perfecting the national context of IP allows us to increase the efficiency of investment into human capital, incentivizes new knowledge, and is a good ground for successful development that would be a foundation of a new economy that is able to stand the challenge of the 21st century. The Russian Federation State Duma has always paid attention to IP protection, and this year, in the context of sanctions against our country, we have a new law enforcement practice. We have upgraded our legal base, and the State Duma supports the initiative of Rospatent and all Russian society of investors and efficiency experts and professional community to transform the sphere of intellectual property, digitize the sphere of services, and commercialize the inventions. I'm sure that the results of this conference will make a significant contribution into the innovative economy of Russia, and I would like to wish you all fruitful work and good and useful communication. Good morning, dear friends, colleagues, and professionals on IP. I'm happy to declare our plenary session of the 26th International Rospatent Conference open. This year, it is devoted to technological sovereignty matters, and at our plenary and our sessions, we would try to do our best to look into the detail of various approaches that Rospatent puts forward to truly make our country technologically independent, to unravel our technological potential, to support business and incentivize it in IP development, making it the main driver of technological development. It is the 67th anniversary of Rospatent today. The date of its foundation is the 29th of September, so it is not by chance that we are opening our conference today. Dear colleagues, I would like to welcome all of you once again, and I would like to briefly name approaches of Rospatent on technological independence. You understand perfectly well that today we are living in uneasy times of challenges, but at the same time opportunities. I believe that you all feel and understand perfectly well the necessity, the urgent necessity to solve these tasks. And the important all-national task in Russia is that of reaching technological independence, and Rospatent, as an authority that is on the verge of science and industry, understands perfectly well that the foundation, the basic condition of technological independence is a stable IP system. It is critical to streamline cooperation between science and industry, between business and professionals. This April, Rospatent launched the Center of Advanced Technologies, whose main goal is to coordinate projects mainly targeting replacing international technologies that have left our country. And we are targeting promoting our products beyond our borders to our friendly countries. And within this center, we are actively employing such technologies as re-engineering, consulting, and forming innovative and outpacing features of Russian products. A bright example of this work is, as you know perfectly well, is Sputnik V vaccine. As a result of collaboration of science and business, as well as industry, we have this patent that protects successfully our world-first vaccine. We are in active cooperation with the Information Center of Innovative Technologies in healthcare, and we are developing artificial intelligence employment in new medicine, so in healthcare, and we are actively focusing on diagnostics for cancer treatment, early treatment and early diagnostics, and all this work is connected with big data, and AI is definitely helping us to secure and to save the lives of people. Rospatent helps to protect the solutions and also moves ahead trying to help our investors, apart from protecting their rights, to come up with the necessary design documentation and act in prototyping their developments. And I hope that it will help us increase the number of developments that would be successful. Now the work is in progress in implementing a new pilot project with the Industry Development Foundation and other stakeholders. Dear friends, I believe that our current conference is a critical and highly professional site that enables us to exchange our experience, to exchange the ideas on innovative approaches to intellectual property and other things, and it is a good chance to share the best cases and to structure, design the model on attracting IP objects and IP rights and IP results into the economy. We know how important information, first-mouth information, is important, and today all this information will be shared at our conference. So I suggest starting our work today. I'm happy to see all our parliament chambers, Mr. Kabashev and Madam Gumerova. And I would like to start with Sergei Vladimirovich, who has joined us here in the hall, or Madam Gumerova is also here. Yes, we are always ready, Yury Sergeyevich. So as you are online and everything is right, so I would like to give you the floor first. Could you start our plenary session, please? I'm sure that the depth of approaches and assessment of Rospatent efforts in this time and the prospects of activities in this country will be highlighted by you at a high level. Thank you very much. Good morning, dear colleagues. I'm extremely happy to welcome all of you, dear Yury Sergeyevich, Sergei Vladimirovich, Grigory Petrovich. Though we work online today because of the schedule, I can sense the good and creative atmosphere that you have in your room and how intellectually rich every meter of your audience is. So on behalf of our Committee on Science, Education and Culture of the Federation Council of the Russian Federation, I would like to welcome all the participants of the conference. IP topic has always been one of the top priorities for the Federation Council, and one of the most important councils, the Council of IP Development, is headed by the Speaker of the Federation Council, Madam Matvienko, and in many lines the decisions of this council and close interaction with Rospatent lay the foundation of perfecting the legal base in this area. It goes without saying, dear colleagues, that today, IP role in all spheres of human life is critical. Any sphere of social and economic reality, any national project can be successful only if we use new technologies effectively, information systems effectively, that are based on the results of intellectual activities. Being lawmakers, dear colleagues, we see the priority of perfecting the legal base, the laws in this area, and recently we have adopted a number of laws. First of all, we have adjusted the civil code, and you all know the amendments that have been introduced there, and Russian jurisdiction now has the special tax regime, the so-called patent box, when the Russian Federation constituent entities can give the lower tax on license agreements, including for export. The federal law on patent attorneys has also been amended, and we worked on it for a long time. And the authors have gone through a lot of debates and discussion grounds, but this entry point gave large vast opportunities for IP development. The Federation Council has always paid attention to projects aimed at including Russia into international and regional IP protection systems. That is why, dear colleagues, we are happy to note that Russia has joined the Lisbon system of geographic names registration and the launch of Eurasian system of registering industrial samples. And I believe that you have seen that we have moved step by step towards this solution. And geographical names and geographic indication used to be absent in our law. So we have introduced it to our laws together with the Rospatent. That's why we managed to join Lisbon Agreement. Another priority is working on the development of Regional Brands Institute. This May, a law was adopted to limit registering trademarks that have geographical names. Colleagues, that is something that the Russian Federation entities have asked us for a long time, and the authorship of this very important law was led by Madam Matvienko. Another law which is pending now in State Duma is IP protection in the Russian Federation within international agreements. And like Yury Sergeyevich has precisely mentioned today, under the unprecedented pressure of sanctions, our task is to provide for the technical sovereignty of the country. And today we are taking measures to ease the burden on economy, including IP areas. And the government has the right to name and range of products towards which certain civil code protection items on exclusive rights per intellectual property results cannot be applied. And this April, law was adopted that stipulates amendments to the tax code, including the VAT exemption. Dear colleagues, the Federation Council is looking at the Center of Innovations and IP Perfection, and constant monitoring is going on for IP results protection in Russia and all the regions. And I'm sincerely grateful to Yury Sergeyevich for these centers that are launched, and when one of them was launched in Ufa, Rospatent gave its full support there, and I'm sure we will go on in this line. And the matter of IP protection in the region should be lifted to the strategic level. So this is pending now. And Yury Sergeyevich, I believe that we have to analyze in detail whether we have the deputies of governors in the regions, the focal points that are in charge of the development of this matter, to see that everything is going on well. And we should have some online meeting maybe, that would show us the state of affairs now. You remember our meeting in Saransk that showed that not all understand the significance of this critical topic. And those who did manage to get that outpace others in their strategic development. And colleagues, the course on continuous development of our dialogue with business and industry and cross-border colleagues has enabled our Rospatent to become the top, both in the quality of services and support. Colleagues, it might not be truly right, but I'm sure, and I would like to point out that we have this continuity and the good beginnings that we saw at Grigory Petrovich's leadership, and now we can see at Yury Sergeyevich's leadership is true and visible, and it's critical that we have this good cooperation. I'm sure, dear colleagues, that our current conference would enable us to table new ideas, to debate some topics, and I would like to once again assure you that the Federation Council, our committee, and the Council on IP Development have always been and will stay a true partner in the development of this institute in this country. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Madam Gumerova. The full house here in the 5th floor gives their warm applause to you. And Madam Gumerova, I'm sorry that I have not introduced you correctly. So you are the chairwoman of the Committee on Science, Education and Culture of the Federation Council of the Russian Federation. As we have been cooperating so intensely that I believe that this tandem of Rospatent and the Council of the Federation and your committee is clear and well known to everyone. You know, Yury Sergeyevich, you have already, I think, signed me to the employees of Rospatent. Well, friends and good support, I would say. Lilia Salavatovna, thank you very much for all your support to our initiatives, and we also support you in the regional development. And now we are discovering a new area to execute the new laws and bylaws and amendments, and we are carrying out training sessions, and we can see the certain result of tripartite agreements, and in general, everywhere where we can enjoy our cooperation with the Federation Council and the IP Development Council headed by Madam Matviyenko, we can bear more fruit. And of course there are gaps and we still need to move on, but anyway we can see the good results of our cooperation. Thank you very much for your support of all our initiatives. Now I would like to continue with our welcoming remarks. I'm really happy to see Sergei Vladimirovich Kabyshev, the chair of the State Duma Committee on Science and Higher Education. We are in active cooperation with this committee as well on our new initiatives on developing or streamlining this chain from education to industry, and the support of this committee is really critical, because without science, without scientific developments, without outpacing technologies, it would be really hard to achieve this technological sovereignty. So, Sergei Vladimirovich, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Zubov. Thank you, Madam Gumerova. I would like to join the high estimate to the activity by Rospatent, and we work. I would like to join Madam Lilia Gumerova, and she made my task easier by mentioning our work, and I would like to stop on yesterday's parliamentary hour in the State Duma, offered by Mr. Maxim Reshetnikov, the Minister of Economic Development, and answering my question on the role of intellectual property in the technological development of the Russian Federation. So he said that the role has so far been underestimated, and we need to invest a lot of efforts to change the situation and make the transfer of knowledge into the real sector of the economy relevant, because we need to support the import substitution and the technological development, and we need support from our inventors. It is a critical area of activities in Rospatent, and in the current conditions, a lot of scientific and technological projects in the nearest future can be only implemented with the financial support from the government, and the role of the so-called qualified customers is growing. So they are distributing budget funds and are responsible from the economic efficiency, and the role of Rospatent is growing because this authority not only supports inventions and their funding, but also is in charge of governmental control over protection and use of intellectual property. And the main focus, if we would talk about science and estimating the efficiency of research works in the area of documentations, so the main focus should be not on the scientific ratings, but the outcomes, the results in the real sector of the economy. Authors should ideally begin with publishing the results and then proceed with publications of the reference literature. Such an approach would allow us to change our approach to the science and contribute to the technological sovereignty of our country. And I hope that there will be more questions from the delegates to the conference, and the committee of the State Duma on science and higher education pays attention to training and developing human resources in this area, and we work closely with Yury Sergeyevich and Lilia Salamatovna, and I hope we are successful in that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Karbyshev. Without the support from your committee, we will not manage, and it's essential to go ahead together with the science, with the legislation and the ways to improve it in terms of patent activities. And Rospatent is always ready to give you support and to make the transition process as transparent as possible for patents and further commercial efficiency. So, dear friends, we have a very full attendance, and on the 4th and the 5th floors of our building we have live broadcasting of our plenary session to make you feel comfortable. If you would like to, you can watch the broadcasting in Rospatent building. So, dear friends, we closely cooperate with the economic regulator of our country, the Ministry of Economic Development, and the key points on our agenda are developing intellectual property as an asset with high liquidity, which boosts capitalization of companies, identifying IP for the companies and adding them to the balance. So those issues are very relevant and interesting, and they have to do with encouraging economic agents to add objects of IP into their activity. And the Ministry of Economic Development is responsible for implementing the roadmap. And we are co-agent. We interact with the ministry in terms of legislations and further law enforcement in the work with the professional community, the innovation community, state corporations and regional companies in the way how this policy on capitalizing from IP should be carried out. Also shaping the foundations for increasing our GDP and boosting its role in developing the IP market. And today the Ministry of the Economic Development is responsible for these government activities. So Mr. Maxim Kolesnikov, Deputy Minister of the Economic Development of the Russian Federation, sadly couldn't attend our plenary session, but he sent us a welcoming letter, and we will post it on the web portal of Rospatent. So let's proceed with our agenda, and I would like to comment on one relevant question that has to do with getting the business and government involved in joint projects aimed on higher efficiency and getting involved in the economic development on the way for a higher efficiency. Dear colleagues, could you please switch your microphones on? So, on the way to a more efficient progress from conception of an idea to its final implementation. And the solution we offered on the stage of roadmap, the early response system. Why do we call it like this? Because as such, Rospatent in the situation acts as a guide from an idea development to verification and further forecast of technical viability up to the stage of patent research and registering intellectual property rights and taking the products to Russian and international markets. Also, there is a stage when the concept of a product is further updated and we build up the strategy for registering patent rules for new developments. And I would like, in brief, to reflect that project, that instrument, or to be more correct, a mechanism. Under current conditions, we believe it has a paramount importance and allows us to implement serious projects on the government scale, and we need to get beneficiaries accustomed to that approach. And at early stages of implementation of the project, we believe that we would need some assistance, and we are getting that aid from the community of patent attorneys and higher education, academic communities, and experts on technological transfer. We don't have too many of them, but that's a topic for a separate discussion. The mechanism itself is called as the system of technological follow-up of government projects. It applies to high-tech projects and developments for the further identifications of solutions which could translate into patents. So this is a long title, a long name. for this mechanism, but I hope that over time we will find a proper name at the stage of pilot projects, and the Ministry of Research and Higher Education will be in charge of a pilot project at the number of levels for this subject area, and we are awaiting a bylaw from the government to be published, and the Ministry of Industrial Property will be in charge of the project, and the project office will act as a driver. And I hope that the experience we accumulated in technological reconnaissance will be important for cooperation with the expert community, and after its end in 2023, the mechanism will be part of the toolkit for interaction between the business and the state for high-risk and high-tech projects to follow. And it's important for the purposes of our meeting, and also the Minister of Science and Higher Education is sadly on a business trip today, so he couldn't join us, but he sent us a welcoming address, which is essential in terms of support. Please have a look at the screen, and we will also post them on the website of Rospatent. Let's proceed, dear colleagues. And today, let's talk about the development of technologies. It is impossible without support from the business sector, the industry, and the involvement of the key ministries. And we are trying to build up that mechanism where the order from enterprises from business and civil sector will contribute to developing and producing relevant products and solutions that can replace the old solutions for import substitutions for production chains, and we try to assemble this mechanism together with the Ministry of Trade and Commerce of the Russian Federation, and Mr. Sergei Klemenov will join us online. So the Deputy Minister of the Department of Strategic Development and Corporate Policy, Mr. Klemenov, we can hear you, but we don't see you, but we are ready to communicate with you and give you the floor. Well, I will be very brief. In charge of the total situation, the entire ministry is attending events related to mobilization of civilians and economic mobilizations as such. But to begin with, I would like to say that maybe it's not directly related to the activities of Rospatent and the Agency of Intellectual Property. A couple of months ago, we had the strategic session on import substitution in industry, presided by Mr. Mishustin, the Prime Minister, and we shortlisted a number of industries, and among the priorities we have the industries related to transport security, like engineering in railway sector, car building and shipbuilding, everything related to food industry, producing foodstuffs for the civil sector, and business and economic engineering, food processing, and so on. So as for the measures offered by the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, we proactively look at how new technologies can be produced and obtained, which are limited as for today. And we look at the area of research and development and buying, purchasing new technologies from friendly countries. And as for today, I would like to avoid statistics. The Ministry of Industry and Commerce has 35,000 developments, and in recent year about 1,500 results in the area of intellectual property were obtained, not patent alone, but also developments, and we have a lot of information, but I would like to put it aside a little bit in the current conditions. So, Mr. Sergei Klemenov, thank you. We are making first steps in this area. We are trying to be closer to each other, so we have a number of pilot projects in terms of technological assessment of a number of projects, and in general on supporting the ministry in developing the area of imports substitution and development of advanced technologies. Thanks a lot. Goodbye. Let's proceed. And I would like to say that for successful innovation development, we need cooperation, and not just in one separate area. Sorry, the sound is lost. I would like to congratulate you with the anniversary of Rospatent. This is the most important conference, and traditionally it takes place on the foundation day of the agency, and on some years there were breaks, but this tradition is 26 years long, and we have full respect for this tradition. And I would like to tell you that Rospatent is still creative with this 26th conference, and I like this title, IP era, and in the international context, in the context of an era, this is really important to understand the problems of today, and our path from today to the future is the one we need to go.
That is why it is
для обеспечения технологического суверенитета. И прежде всего хотел бы подчеркнуть, что обеспечение технологического суверенитета ни в коем случае не означает закрытости. Лилия Салатовна Гумерова сказала сейчас о международных договорах, которые последние годы были Российской Федерацией, странами Евразийского региона подписаны. Это чрезвычайно важно, что Евразийский регион пользуется всеми инструментами интеллектуальной собственности, которые предлагаются мировой патентной системой, и присоединение России и других стран к этим инструментам означает возможности защиты технологии, защиты патента. Вообще сама сущность интеллектуальной собственности – это обеспечение прав, обеспечение исключительных прав, имущественных прав. И сущность в том, что открывается это сведения, что они становятся доступными всему миру. И очень важно, что все наши страны решают эти вопросы, исходя именно из этих принципов. Конечно же, из всех международных партнеров евразийские государства всегда были друг друга самыми открытыми и самыми приоритетными. Это связано прежде всего с тем, что развитие евразийской интеграции – это естественный процесс, не подверженный изменениям политической конъюнктуры. Логично и разумно активно развивать отношения с непосредственными ближайшими соседями, с которыми нас связывает общая история, производственно-кооперационные связи, научно-технологическое сотрудничество, многоплановые хозяйственные отношения. Достижение технологического суверенитета неразрывно связано с выстраиванием эффективной системы интеллектуальной собственности. И вообще, может быть, нам всем сейчас важно посмотреть снова на те теории евразийства, те теории, которые подчеркивали глубинные истоки единства евразийских народов, и почитать еще раз наших философов и Савицкого, и Трубецкого. Для нас очень важно, что этап, на котором живет мир, означает, что каждая страна испытывает потребность в техническом проникновении, как со стороны дружественных экономических партнеров, так и проникновение своих собственных идей в те же страны, с которыми выстраиваются экономические отношения. И поскольку с некоторыми евразийскими странами Россия вообще объединяет общий рынок, общее таможенное, общее патентное пространство, вопросы развития системы интеллектуальной собственности и инноваций неизбежно выходят за рамки национального уровня. Технический суверенитет требует добиваться конкурентоспособности, минимизировать технологические риски, опираясь на интеллектуальный потенциал наших народов, объединяя усилия для решения общих задач. Мы видим, что Россия, внедряя производство вакцин,
introducing vaccines, anti-COVID vaccines, Russia provides this treatment for half of the world, though there were political barriers for the vaccine to be promoted all over the world, but over 40 countries of the world are now using our vaccines. And as we are at a Russian conference, I would like to quote President Putin at the Supreme Economic Council meeting this May. He said that closer integration would enable our countries to become economically stronger and reduce the dependence on external, including political environment. And this idea is topical, bearing in mind the big Eurasian partnership development that some countries of Eurasian continent supported, including China, India, the SCO, and other organizations. And this factor is obvious. The Innovation and Patent Activity Center of our countries is moving to Asia-Pacific region, and recently WIPO has registered in their statistics that over half of all international patent applications are tabled by inventors from Asian countries. And going back to the first Eurasian Economic Forum, I would like to remind all of us present here that President Putin pointed out prospects of Eurasian Expert Center Foundation, transborder zones, new incentivizing mechanisms to stimulate activity in Eurasian space. And this needs a foundation from IP, and that is the work that we need to undergo in all Eurasian environment. I can assure you that Eurasian Patent Authority would be a good partner to IP protection in the region. Regional systems of invention registration have been up and running for over 15 years, and Eurasian Patent Authority gives the official papers that do not require additional validations, and that enhances opportunities for a lot of productions. And as we have a legal instrument of right protection, we can incentivize economic activities in the region. And we are happy to expand the IP objects with our partners to come up with the Eurasian trademark creation. Prospects of one and single judicial legal jurisdiction is also important here. I would like to point out that opponents of Eurasian integration have no arguments against the new IP objects and judicial system development. Pay attention to some of arguments that they put forward. Whose interest is this Eurasian development in? Different people try to voice some unclear ideas about it, but I can assure you that that is in the interest of all countries, all applicants. Our inventors are in need of a single useful model, and we know how hard it is to tap the common market with your inventions. But when you have this single market and single model, it is much easier. And when we have an invention, we can make this process up and running. And pay attention to the trend of IP development. And you all know that China has 1.5 million applications for inventions. And how many applications do they have for useful models? Well, so can you just assume 3 million per year? And when we are talking about this trend, everybody is saying like, okay, China is developing and is developing well, and then we keep silent. But let's make conclusions. China is developing, and annually they have 3 million applications for useful models. And useful models is a natural IP property object for all our regions. And I would like to remind you of a huge number of cases when a lot of production sites just die out because they do not have the needed IP or trademark protection, the due protection. We have many times seen when trademarks are not protected and are infringed on, and single trademark creation would enable the producer to work calmly in our market. You are all experts, you are all lawyers, you know how business is made, and can you imagine how hard it is for the producer to arrange something hundreds or thousands kilometers away from their production base? I saw these productions in technoparks in Penza. They have a brilliant production site, and when I tell them, let's spread it to the whole region, and this producer having a production site in the region, they lose economic activity. They do not have enough abilities to continue acting internationally because they know what barriers that would face. And single trademark, single useful model, single invention in the Eurasian territory would provide for economic penetration. It would provide for technological sovereignty. That is the instruments that we have. And that is all true talking about a single judicial jurisdiction. And I can hear a lot of objections like, no, we don't need it. We have a good IP court. We have our own judicial system. But can you imagine this applicant having no protection at the Eurasian level? One thing is to apply for one court, and another thing is to go to 8 courts. And in all our history, we have not had a patent that would win cases in the courts of 8 countries. But our applicants are major companies, so this tool, this instrument, is not used. I will not name all the arguments. Colleagues, you know, in 2019, Europeans made a decision on founding a single one patent court. Did anyone object? Well, yes, there was a group of lawyers who twice filed to Constitutional Court in the Federative Republic of Germany, and it ended with cancellation. So let's not. It ended with a denial. Let's not repeat that. Let us use the best experience, the best cases of the world, and I hope that IP instruments penetrating in all our countries would create all the necessary conditions for technological sovereignty of our country. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much, Grigory Petrovich. Questions of integration and interaction in all areas with the Eurasian Patent Authority are really topical today, and they are important. A lot has been made, but a lot is still planned, and the quality of this integration will continue. To carry on this matter of Eurasian agenda, I would like to give the floor for the welcoming remarks to the director of the National Patent Information Center of the Ministry of Economic Development, to Mr. Mirzo Hazatbek from Tajikistan. We cannot hear you. Do you have your mic on? Mirzo, we cannot hear you. Colleagues, could you please check whether everything is functioning well? Mirzo, do you have your mic on? So let's... While our colleague from Tajikistan is reconnecting, I will give the floor to our colleague from Belarus, and we meet with our colleagues from Belarus really very often. We have very warm contacts and wide agenda. So I would like to give the floor to the first deputy of Director General of the National Center of IP from the Republic of Belarus, Alexei Kurman. Alexei, the floor is yours. Good morning, dear colleagues, dear guests and participants of this international conference. Thank you for giving me the floor. First and foremost, I would like to congratulate Yury Sergeyevich and all the team of Rospatent and all the organizations under it with your birthday. I would like to wish you all the best, wish you great success in new initiatives, new achievements, and new horizons. I would also like to thank you for inviting me to participate in the discussion of these important questions that we are touching upon in this conference, and problems and challenges that our countries face are similar, as practice shows. That is why it's not by chance that we are building our union together, and I hope that together we would be able to find solutions to all the challenges that we currently face. And thirdly, I would like to carry out an important mission and read out the welcoming remarks of the Director General of the National IP Center of the Republic of Belarus, Mr. Rybrov, to the participants and guests of this international conference. On behalf of the National IP Center of the Republic of Belarus. I'm happy to welcome you to the opening of the 26th International Conference of the Federal Service of Intellectual Property. Intellectual property as the base condition for the technological sovereignty of the Russian Federation. The main topic of the conference is a cornerstone in the innovation development strategy of any country today, supporting national producer, manufacturer, stimulating scientific invention, development of import replacement, and new forms of international cooperation and new channels of communication enables us to come up with a national mechanism of continuous ways of production and technology. And now we can not only develop a strategy but systemize the information about cross-border patents, patent leadership, managing science and technology, and all this information flow lays the foundation for understanding those areas of intellectual activities that we have to protect not only within our country but beyond it as well. The Republic of Belarus sees technological sovereignty as one of the top priorities in our national development, and it is seen in several decrees and orders of the President and the government. Currently, technological sovereignty of our country is provided for by the results achieved, and further strategy based on effective economic management, innovations and rational use of natural resources, food security and investment into human capital development and intellectual activities. The conference program has a lot of discussions and master classes, and I'm sure that there we would be able to exchange extremely important information in the current context of changing global relations and economic value chains. And I hope that we would see new horizons and fruitful work. And I would like to wish you all interesting and informative discussions. Thank you very much. Thank you, Alexey Viktorovich. Thank you. Dear colleagues, so let's make a step ahead on the agenda that we are trying to unravel. And we would go back to the direct contact with all the speakers, but now I would like to voice the following thing. We have been working for a long time. Sometimes we are lagging behind, sometimes we are pacing ahead, but I'm sure that after this order of the President of the Russian Federation, we would enhance the IP development with loans better, and I hope that we would be able to achieve success in that matter. We have been moving forward together with the stakeholders, with different development institutes. We have tried different options, and not long ago there was a case at St. Petersburg International Economic Forum when, by chance, I met President of the Internet Initiative Development Foundation, and it so happened that his initiative and our joint initiative met, and I invited Kirill Viktorovich today to voice his approach and the steps that we can make in the near future for that. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Zubov and the delegates to the conference. Actually, I would like to begin with one previous step. We are talking about technological sovereignty today and the demand for the science and research in the state. And I regret that our colleagues from the Council of the Federation and the State Duma already left our session. But the most important task is to share the tasks of the government with the scientific community. Otherwise, patent activities is something for the future that is stored. And coming close to the topic mentioned by Mr. Yury Zubov, I would like to tell you how the information ecosystem focused on innovation works. We, as a foundation of Internet initiatives development, are working for 9 years on growing companies, and we invested into 450 companies, and we have the first-hand knowledge on what should be done and how for an invention to reach an end customer and become commercial. The essential thing is to understand the key principle that for every ruble of invention you invest, you need 10 rubles to build the production facility and 100 rubles for the invention and to reach the customer and the product to be sold. And at the level of the country, at the national level, we would quite often forget about this principle, and we would be proud that Russia was the country where the TV set was invented and other things, but it is still a flop if the product doesn't reach the market, no matter how many rating lists you write and develop. And overall, we would like to improve the situation with financing, funding, and making commercial this scientific activity. We would also like to expand the opportunities for investments from the bank. It's no secret that companies with big high-tech potential and very often IT companies, they don't have assets as a base like buildings or expensive equipment. And in terms of banking regulations, they do not fall into first or second category of asset-backed companies, and there is a need for banks to support them. And there is an international practice. Like in Turkey, there was a law adopted on the real estate used as collateral, and there is a commission established, and I know the head of the commission, and they told me how they work with patents. They would evaluate and develop and estimate for a project. In Singapore, there is a similar program underway in Malaysia, South Korea, so there is international experience to be used. The case of South Korea is a little bit different, but the ideas are fundamental. What we would like to suggest Rospatent to do as part of our cooperation. Number one, we need to develop and approve the methodology for assessment of IP as something to be used as collateral. The project has been developed by Rospatent, but we need to fine-tune some details, and I hope it happens in the nearest future. And secondly, we need to change the regulatory documents at the level of the central bank, to change the legislation, and we have an order, as mentioned by Mr. Yury Zubov. The Central Bank of Russia is quite constructive, but they are waiting for a methodology from you, Mr. Zubov. And number three, there is a specialized fund to be developed that will guarantee and offer us security for buying out IP results and offer a guarantee for such loans, and the banks would have to enter into agreements with such a fund regarding the approval of the collateral or security, and I hope that in the next few months we'll come to an agreement to harmonize the situation and ensure an inflow of funds into this sector. Thanks a lot, and I hope that with your support and with your opportunities we will be able to come to an agreement with the banking sector, and the Central Bank of Russia will also hear us. And a few days ago I heard about this evaluation system, the system of Rospatent. Eventually we managed to establish this center, and it works on major government-backed projects or large-scale projects in business, and this system has been developed and shaped, and I hope that it can be more efficient than expected by the central bank. But the system consists of some components, and the system developed 2 years ago should be seriously upgraded, and there is a need for update. And thanks for your estimate. We have like a task force as part of the Rospatent, which will work on the upgrade of the system to bring this work to an end, to ensure that funds from financial organizations and institutions are attracted to back up the resources we are talking about. And another point to comment on, as we began that discussions about loans, special purpose loans for intellectual property, and certain steps are taken in terms of our cooperation with the Bank of Moscow, and I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Petr Tarasov. So I thank you, dear colleagues. I have some slides to present, but I would like to offer you a number of statements. And answering what was mentioned by Mr. Zubov. So first of all, as a bank, we started to work with Rospatent on offering loans for projects from 2019, and we started with 1 or 2 billion rubles. Now our plan for the credits is 15 billion rubles. This is too little, but this initiative is really important, as mentioned by Yury Zubov. The initiative on working with the intellectual property, it was supported by the government, and it was mentioned that our bank is the only bank approved as an operator of an initiative for supporting high-tech enterprises in line with the Decree 169. And from 2019, there was evidence that IP can be a driver for developing loan instruments, and you all know the policy of central bank that intellectual property is not a tool to cover risks, and we would link IP to the project. For us to work more in this area, we have like a co-funding tool, and every enterprise which is considered to be high-tech is eligible to get a commercial guarantee from our bank and other institutions. And the problem is that many enterprises are not used to getting securities guarantees, and we work on a project basis. We would look at the budget of the project and what amount of funds could be raised, not only for an object of security, but what potential of an income a project or an enterprise entails. The intellectual property offered to us is estimated in big values. So we had an offer of a project for 1 trillion rubles, and we asked about the tax sides, and the author said that at the moment it's not subject to taxation. Quite often we evaluate the collateral in 1 ruble, and the practice shown that there is a list of companies involved for evaluation, and IP is evaluated as security. So it's important how you match the methodology and the practice of working with a certain company. If IP can be used as a tool for covering risks, it depends on how much proper funds were invested by the initiator of a project. It's also important to tell that we have like a special purpose fund which focuses on IP initiatives. It's critically important under current circumstances, and it has to do with the initiators focused on strategical areas. For instance, during World War I, German reconnaissance established an insurance company, and it approached Russian steelworks and asked about the to support infrastructure construction project, but the profit was going abroad, and it's essential to bear such factors in mind. In brief, our main areas in portfolio are loans to high-tech projects. We are the only operator offering loans for 500 million rubles for a term of up to 3 years, and the interest rates is 3 years, 3% per year. On the slide, you see the list of high-priority areas for high-tech businesses. It's a wide list, and any small enterprise, small business that cannot find the way forward can address us, and we will advise and consult the applicant. The portrait of a potential lender, it should be a company with an approximate annual revenue of at least 100 million rubles, and loans are offered to small and medium businesses which are in commercial activities in business. Now I would like to tell you how do you normally apply for a loan, so you can do it online using the digital platform of MSP Corporation in real time. You log on to the website of msp.rf, you register an account, you enter the source data, then the application comes into our information system, where you fill in the data according to the requirements of the banking legislations, and then you would get our proposal. Out of 15 billion rubles allocated for the year. We have a project in portfolio for 5 billion rubles. You need to apply for a loan. Then you have like an expert review with MSP corporations, and over 70 projects were subject to that review. And we invite you to contact MSP Corporation, and together with Rospatent, we would like to assist you. Thank you. Thank you for specific cases and projects you mentioned. And MSP are among the leading banks for loans backed by securities, and thanks for implementing such initiatives. And as we said before, this should be a comprehensive system, and we need to focus on that together with the central bank, and we need to be efficient in assembling the mechanisms. Thanks a lot. And I see that my colleague from Tajikistan, Mr. Ismail Zodmirzo Hyderbek, is online, and I hope it works now. Thank you. So, can you hear me? Yes. So, dear Mr. Zubov, dear colleagues, I would like to tell you that I am really honored that you invited me to take part in this relevant and topical equipment on technological sovereignty. And the international context entails the need for a discussion of this topic, which is the need of Russia and other countries. And intellectual resources, knowledge and information are relevant for that. And efficient use of IP depends on the position of countries in information-extensive resources, which determines the progress of economy. And IP provides for encourages in technology transfer, stimulating fair competition, and establishing the social base, supporting the viability of economics. The Patent Office of Tajikistan, represented by me, together with other structures involved in protection of IP, is focused on developing an environment, a favorable environment for innovations and getting economic revenues, supporting scientists, inventors, and innovation industry agents. So we have a strategy developed up to the year 2030, and our patent office works with the Rospatent, and this is a mutually beneficial cooperation, and many experts from our patent office worked on probation in Russia with Rospatent at the most advanced and certificated level. And this scientific and practical conference is a big event for the community of inventors and patent attorneys. And I believe it's very important that we have the chance to be part of such events, to listen about the challenges and exchange opportunities. So I would like to express my gratitude to all organizers of this international scientific and practical conference. And I would like to wish all the delegates to the conference a fruitful work, constructive dialogue, and efficient interaction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mirzo, for your welcoming remarks. Congratulations, assessment of our work. Let's together develop all the initiatives in the Eurasian environment. Hereby, I would like to close our plenary session with two very important things. First of all, I would like to give the floor to the Director General of All Russian Society of Investors and Efficiency Experts, and you know, I have this feeling to say not all Russian, but the world. Anton Ishchenko, our long friend and colleague, fighter for all the innovations in all the regions, in all the most original inventions and developments. So, Anton Anatolovich, the floor is yours. Thank you very much, Yury Sergeyevich. I would like to join in to all the congratulations to you, the team of Rospatent, and the Federal Institute of Intellectual Property, and all other subsidiaries. For us, Rospatent has always and will always be, I hope, the most important partner that understands the problems of investors and invention movement. I don't think that it makes sense to remind you of the significance of IP and IP protection in this room. And President Putin mentioned that yet again when he congratulated us back in January this year with the Inventors' Day. So today I would like to focus on the matters that are our great concerns in the professional community. Irrespective of all the steps made and the roadmap, we can see that innovative activities are going down. And we see that in the recent 5 years, the drop in the applications for patents has dropped by 30%, and the number of applications on inventions has dropped from physical individuals has dropped too, and the loss of the number of patents given in machine engineering, heating, lighting, pumps and engines, weapons and blasting has gone down by almost 50%. And we have seen this in the recent 5 years. That's why we, our All Russia Society of Investors and Efficiency Experts, have several suggestions. And today we are thinking of improving the mechanisms of interaction with startups. And I can agree with what the previous speakers have said. So proceeding from our experience, interviews and questionnaires, the interaction with corporations and startups, we can see that the main problem is absent funding at early stages when the inventor has to come up with an effective design and prototype. And we believe that a good solution would be to go back to what the lawmaker put forward in 2006. And that is the need to adopt a law to incentivize invention in this country. And regrettably, it is non-existent, and the rules of the game on the patent are in place, but we are void of all the support measures. So a law of this kind can stimulate invention development. And Russian Invention Foundation, as we call it, is in deep need, and that is an important structure that would help us to develop IP. And Rospatent can lead this organization that can be in charge of IP and industrial property. And we once again can state that beneficial or soft landing is question number one, but it should not be confused with landing secured on IP. So we are talking about landing secured by the business reputation. And one of our suggestions is the minimum amount of payment to the inventors, and today it is non-existent. We can also see that there is a barrier between corporations and startups in the sphere of communications. Startups cannot get to the decision makers in large corporations, and we suggest coming up with a federal law on non-commercial organizations that we would also call scientific and technological not-for-profit organizations, and that is something, the law that can stipulate additional opportunities for startups to get in touch with the decision makers in corporations. Another barrier is low motivation of corporations to working with startups, mostly technological startups at early stages, and the authorities that are in charge of that are not very active. So we need to reconsider this approach, and I believe that it might make sense to have a key indicator like interest from the revenue earmarked for venture funding of startups. And here startup selection is something that Rospatent can play a good role in, selecting startups with a good commercialization potential. We can also see very low motivation among ministries. We have carried out an analysis to see that the paperwork of ministries does not mention innovative activities. So ministries and agencies just do not know about the order, the decree on IP that was adopted 10 years ago, and they do not know about it. They do not have this information on their websites. So we would welcome a special position on IP, well, people who are in charge of IP in the ministries. And another really critical question and matter for us that has been in place for many years is as follows. We understand that the whole professional community today is not united, and the leaders of different ministries very often fail to understand their functions. So we should go back to adopt the strategy of the Russian Federation in the sphere of IP, to be able to pose more ambitious goals, to coordinate the effort of ministries and agencies, to overcome the barriers that I have just voiced. And I believe that today we can join our effort, unite our effort to do that. And the chair of the government has many times said that IP has no borders, and inventors should not have technological barriers, because if a task is posed, the inventor of the Russian Federation would perform it like they have always done in the history of this country. Thank you very much for this brilliant speech. We have been longing for it. That's why we have put you to the end of our plenary session, and the chair of the All Russia Society, Mr. Kononov, has voiced his remarks in his video address to us at the beginning of our plenary session. So we are within this agenda that is well known to the Federation Council and State Duma of the Russian Federation and Rospatent. So we will work together to develop your initiatives, and we are sure that in the near future, even in the current conditions, in the era of huge opportunities, we would be able to implement all that. Dear friends, and in conclusion of our plenary, there is a very important ceremonial moment. I would like to do something that I've been wishing to do for long. Grigory Petrovich Yulev, president of Eurasian Patent Authority, who has been in charge of the Federal Service of IP, and has awarded many of you with these memorable gifts. So I would like to award for re-engineering of IP sphere in the 7 years for everything, for all that Grigory Petrovich has been doing and is going on to do in Eurasian Patent Authority. I would like to award Mr. Ivlev with this memorable medal, the sign of Rospatent. In this atmosphere on Rospatent birthday, and on the 27th, Grigory Petrovich himself had his birthday, so we would like to congratulate you. Thank you very much. To get this award, I had to leave Rospatent, you see? Dear colleagues, therefore, we have concluded the plenary part of our conference, and almost right after it, we will have a press session, and afterwards we will have our sessions where we will exchange our opinions. And the IP era is not only the conference of Rospatent on the 29th, but that is like a triad, if I can call it like this. So 2 days of patent analytics that started yesterday on the 28th of September. We had a really busy day yesterday, and these 2 days of patent analytics have made a pause for our conference of today, so patent analytics will go on tomorrow. So our conference, therefore, has these 3 days, the 28th, the 29th, and 30th of September. Please join us at our conference and our side events, and I hope that this activity will go on. Thank you very much for your participation.